If you thought that Tokyo was always clean, you are wrong. This is what Tokyo used to look like. People used to throw trash everywhere. But one event changed everything, and Tokyo became a clean city that we all know now. So what is this one event? And can the rest of the world learn from it? Let's have a look. Hello world, this is Dean from Japan, and apparently Jimmy Kimmel praised Japan and a lot of conservative talk show hosts have lost their minds over it. So I, as a Japanese person, decided to give some input. I usually cover what's happening in Japan, so if that topic interests you, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Okay, let's have a look. This is Matt Walsh reacting to Jimmy Kimmel.
Well, with all due respect to Stephen Colbert, who many would argue should lay claim to this title, Jimmy Kimmel is still the least funny late-night comedy host in the history of television. At least Colbert appears to be attempting comedy most of the time. He tells things that resemble jokes.
So this has nothing to do with me being Japanese, but I kind of feel Stephen Colbert to be a little bit sad. When I watch his show, I feel like he's doing his comedy routine at a retired person's home. His jokes are kind of dated, and I just feel sad watching him. And as for Jimmy Kimmel, I used to watch his show a bit because I want to improve my delivery and be more like him, but I kind of stopped because that dude is obsessed with Trump.
Hey everybody, it's me, Donald Trump. I can't talk to you anymore. Give me a kiss.
And his jokes are extremely mean. There was this one show where he actually invited that My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell. And Mike Lindell, how do you pronounce his name? Mike Lindell or Mike Lindell? So anyway, Mike is this like Trump fan, and he's a conservative. So Jimmy invited Mike to his show, right? Instead of having a respectful discussion, he proceeded to humiliate Mike in front of his guests.
You got this guy out here, he's claiming to be me, that's an imposter.
Just because someone has a different political opinion doesn't mean that it's okay to bully that person.
This week, Kimmel has gotten some attention online for a monologue where he complains bitterly about his own country and says that Japan is better. And once again, it's not clear where the jokes are supposed to be in this diatribe. Listen.
I took my family to Japan this week, and I have to say, I'm still not sure how I feel about what happened over there. You know, here in America, we know we have our faults. We know we have areas for improvement. But overall, I think most of us believe that compared to the rest of the world, we're pretty buttoned up. Right? I know I did. I go to Europe, and where there are dirt holes where plumbing is supposed to be, and I hold my breath, and I go, I'm glad I'm not one of these people. And then I go back home, right? But now, after traveling to Japan, I realize that this place, this USA we're always chanting about, is a filthy and disgusting country. We were in Japan for 7 days. Not only did I not encounter a single dirty bathroom, the bathrooms in Tokyo and Kyoto are cleaner than our operating rooms here. Everywhere you go.
So both Tokyo and Kyoto are touristy places, but I've heard horror stories of English teachers. So foreigners who come to Japan to teach English, they get relocated to the countryside and they see the bathroom that we have there and they are shocked.
And not just in a hotel, restaurants, bars, truck stops. I went to 2 truck stops. I swear to God, the bathroom's cleaner than Jennifer Garner's teeth. The cleanest. Beautiful.
I didn't get the joke. Is Jennifer Garner known for having clean teeth? And has she been in anything recently? And I have to wonder, like, how filthy are the bathrooms at truck stops in the US? Like, it can't be that bad, right?
And it's not just the bathroom. There's no litter. People carry their own trash. There are no garbage cans in Tokyo. 30 years ago, some terrorists put some poisonous gas in some trash cans. They're like, okay, no more trash cans.
So he's referring to Om Shinrikyo, the doomsday cult. And some of the cult members were actually quite brilliant. They were just really disappointed with the world. They didn't have any reason to live, so they joined this cult. And because of this, because they came from a scientist background, they were able to create their own biochemical weapons. These guys were nuts. They were buying weapons from Russia. But it makes no sense that we don't have public garbage cans because of this. Because of this, we see in places like Kyoto where there are many foreign tourists, there are garbage everywhere because tourists are like, what am I supposed to do with this food I just bought? Like, what am I supposed to throw away? And Paul Joseph Watson, saying this, actually said that this is what happens when you let immigrants in.
Japan has decided to take an alternative course. One of the most homogenous developed nations in the world is opening its arms to mass migration. This video out of Kyoto's Gion district went viral on X, with the Japanese starting to notice some changes to their environment.
No, dude, this is what happens when you let foreign tourists in and also get rid of all the trash bins. Brilliant thinking, Kyoto, brilliant.
Everybody clean up after yourselves. And guess what? They clean up after themselves. They bring their garbage to their houses.
I love that guy. It's like, that dude looks so bored.
The whole country is Disneyland, and we're living at Six Flags.
Japanese metropolitan cities might be Disneyland, but Japanese countryside is Ghibli.
I've been home 36 hours. I've never felt dirtier. We are like hogs compared to the Japanese. I can't imagine what they must think of us. The garbage people. Yes, the Americans, garbage. Yes.
I mean, on my Twitter X feed, I get videos of American homeless people doing, drugs on the street, fentanyl. And I guess like the idea is like, oh my God, this is what happened in the US. Like this is what happens when, you don't take care of like drugs. But overall, like a lot of people do have a lot of respect towards the US. The US is definitely the country of opportunities. Like if you make it in the US, like you made it in the world.
Leaving aside the general unfunniness of his rant, there are three other issues that I have with this. And the first is that Kimmel, as someone who lives in Los Angeles, says that America is a filthy and disgusting country, but that's like someone sitting at a Waffle House at 2 a.m. and declaring that restaurants are grimy and depressing places where fistfights randomly break out. Now, that statement would be true of the particular restaurant the person happens to be sitting in, but it's not true of all restaurants in general. And so in a similar way, yes, Los Angeles is filthy and disgusting. It is a miserable place, unfit for human occupation, but not every place in America is like Los Angeles. In fact, most places are not. The disgusting filthiness is really only found in Democrat-controlled metropolitan areas.
So this is a bit where Matt Walsh is trying to say that left-leaning policies create dirty cities. I'm not really sure about that, but if you're talking about California, there was that famous clip of Mickey Mouse, Ron DeSantis having a go at, what's that guy's name? The guy that looks like the villain from Terminator 2, Gavin Newsom. So Mickey Mouse, Ron DeSantis is like, have this map with like, these bits marked. And he's like, do you know what this map is about? This map shows all the places where there were poo in California. And that really completely stumped Gavin Newsom.
This is a map of San Francisco. There's a lot of plots on that. You may be asking, what is that plotting? Well, this is an app where they plot the human feces that are found on the streets of San Francisco. And you see how almost the whole thing is covered, because that is what has happened in one of the previous greatest cities this country's ever had.
In Japan, they have managed to have big cities that are not glorified trash cans with drug-addled hobos defecating on the sidewalk. So how has Japan pulled that off? That brings us to the second point. The problem with leftist goobers like Jimmy Kimmel is that they'll make these kinds of observations about places like Japan, but then exhibit no curiosity as to why Japan is like that. They simply make the observation and then move on. These people are so dim-witted and incurious that they can notice a stark, shocking difference like this, that Japan's cities are clean and safe while ours are garbage dumps. Now, in this case, the how and why are obvious to anyone who isn't Jimmy Kimmel or one of his liberal friends. Japan is a homogenous country. Now, that might change. In fact, a report this week says that the Japanese government is bringing in over 800,000 foreign workers to deal with labor shortages. And those labor shortages are caused largely by the fact that Japan has the oldest population in the world with record low birth rates.
So there are many people within Japan who is against bringing in foreign workers. And I do have a little bit of an issue with these people, because if they are against bringing in foreign workers, I feel like they should be for giving more rights to women.
今日発表されたジェンダーギャップ指数、日本は146カ国中125位。
So things like making it easier for women to take maternity leaves, or making it easier for women to come back to the workforce after giving birth, and so on. But these people are mostly against that as well. So they're against women's rights and they're against bringing foreign workers. And I personally feel like you kind of have to pick one at some point.
In the next 50 years, the country's population is expected to decline by 30%. In the next several decades, nearly half of the population will be senior citizens, all because Japanese people refuse to have babies. So,
yeah, as I explained in my other videos as well, like we see so many crazy cases of car accidents because 1 out of 4 people in Japan are aged 65 or older. It's good that a lot of Japanese people are healthy and live long, but at the same time, like the lack of workforce is definitely an issue.
You know, if you go to Tokyo in the not so distant future, it may not be the paradise that Jimmy Kimmel was so enraptured by. But
sorry to keep interrupting, but Tokyo has already changed a lot. So I currently live abroad, but when I went back to Tokyo in 2018, I think, I was really surprised at the amount of foreigners that we had. And Japanese TV shows do make sure to show more foreigners in their TV shows.
Japan is and has been a homogenous country. Nearly everyone in the country is Japanese by nationality, and the vast majority of those people are also Japanese by ethnicity. Okay, it is a country where nearly everyone shares one language, one ethnicity, one culture. And that culture is one that values discipline, hard work, education. Japanese people also have a very high average IQ. They have the highest in the world, in fact. And this is an important point because, and this is, now we get into very unforbidden territory here, but plenty of other countries are relatively homogenous, right? But their cultures are inferior to Japanese culture, and their people generally have much lower IQs.
I'm not really sure about dissing other countries, but, you know, on places like TikTok, you know, the China-owned app, a lot of teenagers and adults who act like teenagers diss and criticize Japan. They think that's the hip thing to do.
If you are coming to Japan and planning on going to the gym, let me just warn you, do not wear a matching set. Do not wear a cute little outfit like this. I know that we all love them. I feel so super cute right now. But if I wear something like this to the gym, Japanese people literally treat me like I have whore written on my forehead.
Yeah, I'm not joking. I see this all the time.
People say this stuff all the time. People say this stuff all the damn time. It's like, I can't believe this is... I'm actually really surprised that this is even a point up for debate.
So I'll take a win when I can. I've seen a lot of conservatives praise Japan for being racially homogeneous, but that being said, Singapore is an extremely racially diverse country that is even cleaner and safer than Japan. You know, I am mixed race. I don't think race is important at all, but a lot of people do focus on race. So I love going to Singapore because it's one of the rare places where I can go and nobody really cares about my race. That being said, Singapore is even more strict. It's stricter than Japan. You can't bring in chewing gums in Singapore. It's treated like a contraband in not China, sorry. Oh my God, I'm doing a Biden.
Now, when President Harris and I took last week, President Harris and I...
Chewing gum is treated like a contraband in Singapore.
Chewing gum is really gross. Chewing gum I hate the most. See?
And it's also nice that, like, you know, people are praising Asian countries, but at the same time, I'm not really sure if these people will be okay with like things like masking, like enforced masking. Like in a lot of Asian countries, like we wear masks out of politeness. I'm not really sure if a lot of people who are praising Japan would be willing to wear masks.
Homogeneity itself does not make an advanced, clean, safe, and orderly society. Homogeneity in a sophisticated culture with high IQ people is what does that. So you could see why Kimmel doesn't want to talk about the why. He doesn't want to talk about it because Japan has made itself so enviably clean and safe and orderly precisely by rejecting Kimmel's own worldview. So Kimmel, as an avowed leftist, believes that diversity is our strength, that we should open our arms and allow the third world to flood over our borders, that we ought to have no national language, no real culture, that we should treat all cultures the same.
So some of the stuff he's saying is actually quite right. When I go to a foreign country, I'm always conscious of the fact that I'm the guest to that country, but that's not the mentality that everyone has. Like when a foreigner comes to a country and there's no ties with that country, there are some people who just trash the place. I've seen Japanese people who go abroad and they think they're better than the locals and mistreat the locals. Those are in the minorities, but they do exist, right? But diversity is definitely the strength of the United States. There's a reason why GAFA, so things like Google, Amazon, Facebook, now Meta, and Apple, came from the US. One of the most powerful companies that dominate the world came from the US for this reason, because the United States accept brilliant people from all over the world, and innovation is built through diversity of thoughts. Japan, on the other hand, as I explained in this video, we value uniformity so much that sometimes innovation can be stopped. Like we frown on things that are a little bit different. So that is one challenge that we have to overcome within this global world.
But Japan is Japan because it has, up to now, done the opposite of all that. And now Kimmel excoriates America for not being like Japan, while insisting that we must not do any of the things Japan has done to make itself that way. And we should continue doing all of the things that make our cities dirty and disgusting, even as he complains that our cities are dirty and disgusting. Which leads to the third point. You know, there are things that we can do to make our cities cleaner and safer. You know, we're not going to get to Japan levels probably. That toothpaste left the tube a long time ago, but we don't have to live like this. Our cities don't need to be post-apocalyptic wastelands. They can be cleaned up. It's just that Kimmel, while complaining that the cities are not cleaned up, doesn't want to do any of the necessary things to clean them up. Shutting down illegal immigration, drastically reducing and restricting legal immigration, enforcing the laws in our cities strictly and severely, outlawing vagrancy, rounding up the mentally ill people living on the street, the ones incapable of being productive members of society.
So as I explained in the beginning, Tokyo used to be very filthy. People were throwing garbage everywhere. What changed was that when Tokyo was appointed to hold the Olympics game in 1964, the Japanese government was like, oh my god, we cannot let foreigners see how filthy we are. So they implemented garbage disposal system and had days of cleaning up where people got together and cleaned up the entire city. The slogan of the time was, cleaning garbage is an Olympic event. And I actually love this story because it really shows that culture can change, because this is an event that made Tokyo the clean city that we know now. Another thing I have to mention is that Japan can be really strict about following rules, including garbage disposal. In Japan, you're supposed to dispose different types of garbage on different days. And if you don't follow it, your neighbors will complain to you. There are going to be people within your neighborhood that will be checking that you're separating the garbage properly. And I don't think things like that might work in a very individualistic society like the US. The bottom line is there's always pros and cons in each culture. And I, as a Japanese person, appreciate that both Matt Walsh and Jimmy Kimmel appreciated the pros of the Japanese culture. Anyways, that's it for me for today. And I hope you enjoyed this commentary because I did it without any script. I did it off the cuff. And I was always conscious about like, oh my god, do I sound natural? Like, Dean, pretend that you're talking to your friend. I've been doing this like on and off for 3 years. And even now, like when the camera turns on, I just get nervous and my head just goes blank. Anyway, let me know in the comment section if I pulled it off and I sound completely natural and cool. Or maybe I have to watch more Jimmy Kimmel videos. Thanks for watching and I can't wait to see you guys again. Take care.